Okay, virtual races and tips for success. Okay, I did something like this in COVID, and I think it's really important. A lot of people were coming to me at the time and saying, ran out of motivation, ran out of drive. What's the point in training if all the races that we have are postponed or cancelled? And it was a great insight into people's motivations and where they draw motivation from. If you're extrinsically motivated, meaning that you're doing it really for, the clout, the kudos, the Strava kudos, the pat on the back, the medal, whatever it is, or are you doing it for the intrinsic motivation of like self-development, of getting better, getting faster, getting stronger, getting leaner, like losing fat, and all the skills that you learn in running and you learn through a marathon program or a race program, whatever your distance you're training for, inserting those skills, the tenacity, the resilience, the work ethic into your real life, real life as if that's different, but inserting them into life and becoming a better person that way. Is that why you're motivated? And it was very clear to see that the intrinsically motivated people were gonna go so much further because they were doing it for the love of doing it, because they loved the process of waking up in the morning and training, and the process of doing the harder sessions, the long runs, and then working towards a long-term goal. And that's so much stronger. So with a virtual race, you get to check that. You get to check where you're at. You get to run a distance, whether it's 5k, 10k, a marathon, 50k, whatever you're trying to do. Might be a fastest known time, might be a special trail or a special course that you're going to try and beat your previous time or the record or whatever. You get to see in that race that nobody's there cheering for you. Nobody's there at a drink station. You've got to do it all self-supported. You got to plan and prepare for it. You got to have a strategy. You got to push when it's much easier to run faster when you're in a group at certain stages of, for instance, a marathon or a half marathon. It's very easy to kind of like pick up energy and get onto the back of a running group when you're midway during a race. You don't have that in a virtual race. It's just you against the clock, and it's so important because you get an insight into where you're at the moment, what you're motivated by, and how you can just change that a little bit and get motivated just by the love of doing it. There's nothing wrong with being extrinsically motivated. Like the world probably wouldn't rotate if we weren't extrinsically motivated. We need, I guess we need a large portion of people to be extrinsically motivated in order to work, for instance. But with running, if you're intrinsically motivated, you have a massive advantage, and you can check that out. So within COVID, or during COVID, 2020, I was here in Thailand, where I am right now, in the south of Thailand till June 2020. Then I went back to Spain when eventually the borders opened up. Then it got pretty crazy in Spain again. So in December, I came back here. December 2020, I came back here. So by January 2021, I was back here, and I wanted to, all the races were cancelled and postponed, but I wanted to do a race that had been, the first race was probably 2018 or 2019, an Intanon 50k race where you start in Chom Tong, which is about 100 kilometers from here, and you finish on top of Thailand's highest mountain, which is not this mountain here, this is Doi Satep and Doi Pui, but in the distance over there is the highest mountain in Thailand, which is Doi Intanon. So it finishes on top of that, so very, very similar to the race that I'd done and kind of like become obsessed with ultra running in Spain, the Subido al Pico Veleta, 50k uphill, which separates the men from the boys. Like there's no hiding in an uphill race, especially for 50k. There's no hiding when the gradient starts to kind of get to 20-25%. And that's in the final 10k. There's just no hiding. So I wanted to see, that race had literally been ran once, I think 2018 or 2019, and then they hadn't run it again because of the 100 people that started, I think only half finished. The cut-off time had to be extended because people just had bit off so much more that they could chew, which is brilliant, by the way, and then underestimated the challenge. So there was a bunch of Kenyans who went ahead of me, and I I knew that we shouldn't be running that fast for the first 10k, and I knew that, you know, it was gonna get gradually steeper throughout the race. And then once we hit altitude, we hit some kind of like medium altitude at 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, your body's gonna start reacting differently, and that's when you need energy. So it's kind of, for me, it was all about like the 30k point and then pushing on from there. And so you pass people a lot in the second stage. But what I wanted to do during COVID, that race obviously wasn't being run. Thailand was very strict. And everybody here was wearing masks and stuff like that for a long time. They still do. Like, I'd say 5-10% of people are still wearing masks now. But I wanted to do that. So I trained on the doorstep here. So I do runs up to Doi Pui, which is 18 kilometers uphill. I do sessions on Doi Satep, which is 11 kilometers to the Doi Satep temple here, and I trained towards it, and it was towards the burning season, which was the only slight difference. The race is usually in November, which is, it's the same race this month, this year in 4 weeks time. So I'm really looking forward to that again. But with this challenge, it was just me solo. I had a guy on a motorbike, and then a film crew wanted to film it. So really small film crew, a videographer and a guy with a drone, and they wanted to film it as well. So I said that they could film it to kind of get footage to try to inspire people that were just kind of sat home without any motivation because there was no races to look forward to. So yeah, I did it was really close up until probably 5k to go, and then for me the wheels fell off. And looking back, it was probably to do with the lack of training at altitude, but also the burning season. So there's high, don't want to make excuses. I don't want to make excuses and make an excuse, but it definitely had an effect on the training. And also, so I thought I was ready to do it. I went off at the right pace. I was on track for a long time, and then the wheels fell off in the final 5k, and I was walking and stuff like that, which I hadn't done in the race. But it was, for me, it was absolutely nothing to do with whether they were other runners. Like I was even thinking it as I was running, like, if there was a Kenyan guy in front of me now, 200 meters, would I be able to run now when I'm actually walking? And the answer to that was no. I do not have the power to pick up my legs and run. That's how I just crossed the line. And that's with drink strategy was perfect. I was taking 80 grams, 90 grams of Morton drink every hour. I was taking gels. I was taking all kind of hydration. I wasn't dehydrated. I wasn't having muscle cramps. It was just exhaustion. But the fact that I was proud of myself, because the fact that I could push myself for 45k and do something completely solo, where there's no prize money, there's no medal, there's no glory, it was just about trying to run faster than I could in the actual race, and trying to prove to myself that 3-4 years later I was still just as good as what I was, if not better. So yeah, it's so important. It's an opportunity. If you've got a virtual race, it's an opportunity to prove to yourself who you are.